How's it going, guys? Been a while since I made any videos. I just want to give you a quick update. I actually, in one of my previous videos, I talked about building a little roof to put over my cooker. And as you can see, I obviously completed that, so I just want to kind of give you a quick look, maybe give somebody some ideas on the process, and give them some ideas on what you guys might be able to do for some of your cookers, whether it's something you have Tyler or Paul do for you, or if you want to take it on like by yourself, like I did. So like I talked about in some of my previous videos too, so I did end up going with the 80-20. So for those of you that aren't familiar, 80-20 is it's just an extruded aluminum profile. They come in a bunch of different widths and sizes and thicknesses, and so obviously I try to put a little thought into it and try to make this thing as stout as possible. The overall dimensions on it are it's 78 inches, so 6.5 feet wide this way, and it's 104 inches the other way. So the longest length they'll send you is 102 inches. So I got those for my my runners here. Those are 102 inches, and then what make up the frame for the roof itself is the 25mm series, and then for the columns I went with the 40 series because it's a lot more stout, a lot thicker, a lot heavier. Definitely way heavier than you'd want for the, for something like that. So it actually worked out pretty good. All I ended up having to do though is, so they don't, the company doesn't, the two different series aren't made to actually work together. So I had to make up some brackets and get creative with like spacers and stuff. So as you can see, yeah, I added these pivot brackets, so that way this thing can actually pitch almost vertical, pretty darn near vertical. It bottoms out the way I got it positioned, it bottoms out on the warmer right over there. That's why I got that little bump stop. Not that I ever plan on running it that high, because it's crazy. I honestly plan on leaving it pitched just about that, just enough to keep the rain and water rolling off the backside. And as far as position, basically, the set from the center of the cooker back is, I think I have it set at like 29 inches, and basically 4 feet from that column to the front lip is about 48 inches. So it gives me about 3 feet of overhang from the front of the cooker, which is actually pretty sweet, because you can stand there and you're out of the rain, out of the weather. Yeah, and it works out really well. So this is for those of you like me that can't or don't really have a realistic means of storing your cooker inside, this is a good option. It is a little pricey, and of course I've had it up about a week and we haven't really got a whole lot of rain. We got one little drizzle, but that's about it. But obviously I ran out here when I was doing it, and it worked out pretty good. And as far as height goes, it's about, when the roof is flat, from the top of the stacks to the roof itself is about 12 inches. When it's pitched, it's a little bit more. Obviously, yes, it does, it'll discolor the roof. It's not because it was hot. When I took an infrared thermometer when I was running, and actually it was only, when I was smoking, it was it's around 160, 170 degrees, so not overly hot. The other side is perfectly fine. It's not discolored, so that's just purely from the smoke. And it wasn't oppressive or anything. Actually, I was, everybody that I show this, they're like, oh, where's the smoke? You should have it going through the roof. And honestly, it's not that bad. It kind of rolls up. It rolls up the underside all around, and it just kind of wafts up. And yeah, the smell lingers. Actually, honestly, it smells kind of better. You kind of got the smoke and the smell of what you're cooking kind of lingering around. It actually smells a little better, but it's not anything crazy. And just for for some additional stability, I did add a brace. So originally I went with a 45 degree, but then I wanted to pitch it a little bit, so I said, okay, well, they sell these little pivot adapters, so I made up my own little bracket there, and it does pretty good. I mean, it does waffle a little bit. I'm actually shaking it here, and you can see it kind of waffles a little bit. Nothing crazy. We'll see how it does in the snow and stuff. But that's the cool thing about this stuff too, is you can you can spec out all the tracks. So like in the beam in the center there, it's solid. I try to leave as many solid sides as possible just for strength and stuff, but some of them are, they got channels in them. So they sell these little, I don't know if you can see it or not, I'm just kind of holding the camera up, but they sell little T-nuts that you can slip into the tracks there. So I added them all around, so that way down the road if I want to try to hang a little curtain or something, or if I need to, you know, if we're gonna get a big storm or something, then it's easy enough for me to just attach a piece of lumber or a piece of angle iron just as an additional support. You know, I can just basically just bolt it to that, you know, bolt it right to the track, and then just run it straight down to the ground just for some support. And but I figure too, if we're supposed to get, you know, a lot of snow or something, I'll just come out periodically and just scrape off the roof. It should be good. Or I could pitch it a little more, you know, that's why I have those pivot brackets on the adapter. I could pitch it a little more, but I'm trying to keep the pitch to a minimum because I'm more concerned about the wind. But I've had a few gusts while I've been out here, not today, but previous days, and it actually did pretty well. So enough about that. You know, like I said, I just want to give somebody some ideas. You know, this is I had these galvanized panels left over from doing my woodshed, and I was trying to think of a way to do it, and also to do it without having to modify my cooker too much. So one thing we'll show you, so there's, you know, the only thing mounted on this side is just I got a 6-inch U-bolt, like an exhaust stack U-bolt, and on the other side I did end up having to drill 2 holes. I just drilled one on either side, this side and on the other side. I drilled a hole for a 3/8 16 bolt. And then I just added these little brackets too, just to keep it from, you know, pitching either way. And I added in obviously all these gussets and everything just for additional stability. You know, and then the hardest part about the whole process was just, you know, when you tell them, you got to tell them where you want your, you know, where you want your stuff drilled and tapped, and counterboard for their hidden fasteners if you wanted those, and all your lengths and everything. So more than anything, the whole process, it was pretty easy. It's just a matter of planning out what you wanted and making sure you ordered enough fasteners, enough T-nuts, enough, you know, of all the stuff to actually assemble it. So real quick too, one thing, you know, when I reviewed my other videos, I realized I forgot a couple things. So another thing to keep in mind, guys, too, is if you wanted, there's some maize inserts for the charcoal basket. So that's something that Tyler and the guys offer, relatively cheap. It's something honestly I haven't used a whole lot, but you know, for the price, you might as well get them when you're getting your cooker. So they're really cheap, and they're, you know, they're out a 1/4-inch plate, and they're stout pieces. And then the only other thing too that I found that I actually did on my own is you might have them actually supply you with like a pizza steel. So one thing I found is this thing is awesome for cooking pizzas. Not as good as like a real pizza oven, but it actually does a pretty good job. So originally, you know, I was shopping around for prices and stuff, and oddly enough, actually eBay had pretty good prices on steel. So I got a piece of 1/2-inch plate steel, and I think it was 17 inches by 18 inches by 1/2 inch. It was like, honestly, it was like 65 bucks. It wasn't bad. I'm sure Tyler's price is probably better, so if you're buying your cooker and you're thinking about it, you might just have them supply you a piece. And basically then you could, you know, if you have the sear grate rails in your firebox, you can actually slip that right onto there, start a little fire, and do yourself some wood-fired pizza. But a couple things I did learn is, one, you definitely got to have the baffle block. So you want to try to keep all the heat as you can in there. So you got to make sure that, you know, you got your baffle block there. And then the other thing too is you want a nice small fire, and you need yourself an infrared thermometer, because its temperature is pretty critical. Otherwise you'll scorch the bottom and the top's not going to be done. So what I found is, even though you can get this thing 800, 900 degrees pretty easily, for these cookers, and in a traditional pizza oven, that's fine, the way it convexes, the way it's domed, and the way the heat comes over. But with this, you know, when you got that plate in there, the heat does come up from the side, but I mean, that thing does get hot and it doesn't work as well. So what I found is, you know, like 500 to 550 degrees is a perfect spot. And then the other thing too is, those rails, the way they come, at least on my cooker, were a little bit lower. Perfect for searing, but for cooking pizzas, it was a little too low. So I was fortunate enough, I deal with a sheet metal fabrication company up here for work, and I called in a favor, and he actually made me, and I don't even know why he made it out of stainless, but he made it out of stainless for me, is he made me a little riser. So you can see my plate is sitting on this little stainless steel riser. It was about 4 inches, so basically that fits right on top of there. Raises that plate about 4 inches. Leaves me about, you know, 2-3 inches of space from the top to slip in the pizza. And what I found is that really works, because then I just control the heat with this damper here. So if I want, you know, when I slip, I leave this open when it's running kind of idle. And then when I slip in that pizza, boom, I close that down, let the smoke kind of billow up. You know, I'll have the pinwheel damper wide open, and it does a great job, especially if I got the plate about 550 degrees. The bottom, you know, within 4 minutes, the bottom's nice and crispy, the top's melted and bubbling, and does a pretty good job. So, just another random thing. I didn't think about that when I was buying my cooker, and then afterwards I thought about it, and luckily enough, I, you know, was able to piece it together, and, you know, I just figured, you know, hey, that's another thing I could share with the guys, the community, just to get you thinking about stuff that you might want for yours. So, that's it for now. Like I said, just want to do another, you know, not so short video. It's 11 minutes, but just give you, you know, another thought, give you some closure, and show you what I did end up doing. And just like always, I hopefully this helps somebody out and gives somebody some ideas on what they might want to do with their cooker. So that's all for now, guys. We'll talk to you again. All right, bye.